Hello everyone, Jay here from Jade Productions. So sorry about the lateness of this review, but we're finally getting around to it after we've finally finished some massive, totally not annoying legal documents. Okay, so jumping straight into Codex review for Necrons. Not so much of a huge fan of the Necrons. Haven't actually fought them since they got any of their new stuff. Haven't fought them since like pre-5th edition. But now T has seen this codex, and we've gone through it together, and I'm going to go through it with everyone out there, all of you guys listening. And he's decided to collect this, and I figured I'd let you all know what's the what and what kind of things you can throw together with this codex, for those of you who are prospective buyers. So, quick heads up, the Necrons have two pretty much universal special rules. There's living metal, which is on most of your characters and vehicles. And at the beginning of your turn, this unit regains one lost wound. Neat. And then pretty much the rest of their stuff, except for canoptic units, which we'll cover. They have reanimation protocols, which is they roll a d6 for each model slain in the unit, unless the whole unit has been completely destroyed at the beginning of each of your turns. And you don't roll the d6 for any models that have fled, only ones that have died. On a 5-up, pretty much you put that model straight back into unit coherency with units with what remains of the models in that unit. So, neato. There's some stipulations here that they've added into the codex about where you can place them in coherency, and you have to place them in coherency, and you can't leapfrog them as per the FAQ. So we'll jump straight into it and get right into the new units, and roll right into all the units and everyone, and take a look at this stuff. So you got Imatech the Stormlord. He's only changed a little bit in terms of his stat line. He's just a really good. He's just a standard Necron Lord with 5-inch movement, 2-up, 2-up, strength 5, toughness 5, 6 wounds, 3 attacks, leadership 10, 2+ save. He's got a flamethrower gauntlet. He's got his Staff of the Destroyer, which is Assault 3, AP -3, Strength 6, 2 damage apiece, 18-inch range. Meh. He's got his Staff of the Destroyer, melee version, puts him up to Strength 6, AP -3, 2 damage. He's not so impressive in melee. But if you're taking him because you're taking Sutek Dynasty, and you want to get all of the support for your Necron Warrior blobs. So you've got he's got Pharaon of the Sutek Dynasty. Basically, he gets to use the My Will Be Done ability, which is a staple of all your overlords and your army. You can basically use it twice on 2 different friendly infantry units from his dynasty. So sweet, double My Will Be Dones. He's got Lord of the Storm, which is a little mortal wounds throwout, which lets him pick a enemy unit that's not a character within 48 in the shooting phase, and just on a 2+ they take mortal wounds, and then you roll a d6 for each thing that's for everything within 6 inches around that unit, and then of course they take d3 mortal wounds on a 6. Nice little spiraling little lightning storm. He regains d3 lost wounds at the beginning of your turn instead of 1 from his living metal. He has the My Will Be Done, which lets him pick a Necron infantry unit within 6. And then you add 1 to their advance, charge, and hit rolls, so it means the vast majority of your guys are going to be hitting on 2s then. He can reroll failed hit rolls of 1 for friendly Dynasty flayed ones that are within 12 inches of him. Interesting choice. Interesting. He's very much a buff unit for your entire Necron army. He buffs your infantry really well. He buffs the general gunline infantry turtle-wise unkillable mass moving forward and shooting. And he can also buff your flayed ones that you throw at the enemy to stop them from charging you. He's got Grand Strategist, so you get an extra command point if you take him in your army as your warlord. And he's got a 4-up invul save. Neat. Nemesaur Zandrek, he's basically, again, and he's another special character. He's basically just a, he's got a Staff of Light. So, he's got a shooting profile of 12 inches, assault 3, strength 5, AP minus 2, 1 damage. And its melee profile is strength user, so strength 5, AP minus 2, 1 damage. He's got the living metal, he's got the My Will Be Done, he's got the 4+ invul save. His counter tactics lets you choose one enemy character within 12 inches, and it stops their aura abilities from working until the beginning of their next turn. Kind of cool, but 12-inch range. He's got his Transient Madness, which is, in my opinion, absolutely awful. You get a D3 result for a friendly infantry unit, and one of which is add 1 to attacks characteristics of all the models in that unit, improve the ballistic skill in that unit by 1, or reroll failed charge rolls for that unit. Really only good if you're surrounding him with lots of Lich Guard or Flayed Ones. Not so great for a Warrior Blob and Immortals. So, yeah. Vargard Oberon, sorry. He's kind of like a bodyguard. He's got a slightly worse ballistic skill, but same and an extra attack over the other characters and the regular Overlord. So he's living metal. If he's got cleaving counterblow. If he's killed in the fight phase, you don't remove him. He still gets to fight, even if he's not done so. He gets the standard Lord thing of reroll 1s to wound, which is a standard thing for all Necron Lords. So your Necron Lords basically act as lieutenants now, in a Space Marine equivalent, basically. He's got his Ghostwalker Mantle. At the beginning of your movement phases, Oberon can, and a friendly Sutek infantry unit within 6 inches of Vargard, other than Nemesaur Zandrek, which is his buddy. You can take them off the battlefield and set them up all within 6 inches of Nemesaur Zandrek, and more than 1 inch away from enemy models. And then he's got a bodyguard ability, which is whilst he's within 3 inches of Zandrek, on a 2+, he can intercept the hit. He does not lose a wound, but instead suffers a mortal wound. Fluffy. Very, very fun little duo. Definitely meant to be taken together. Are they actually any good? So-so. Illuminor Illuminor guy. Okay. So he's got a slightly worse profile than a Necron Overlord. He's got weapon skill, ballistic skill 3 up. He's strength, toughness 4. He's 5 wounds and he's 4 attacks. And he's a 3+ save, yeah. And he's a 3+ save instead of 2+. In terms of named characters. So, he's got his Eldritch Lance, which is 36 inches, assault 1, strength 8, AP minus 4, d6 damage. That's 1 nasty spear. And that's its shooting profile, and in melee, it's just a strength user, AP minus 2 weapon. He's got living metal. He's got the Master Technomancer, which increases your reanimation protocols by 1. So he's just a buffed up Cryptech. He's got his Mechanical Augments, which at the end of your movement phase, you can choose a friendly Necron Warrior or a Mortals unit within 1 inch of Illuminor Caesaris. Roll a d3 to see what characteristic modifier models in that unit gain for the rest of the battle. A unit can only be the target of this ability once per battle, and the options are +1 strength, +1 toughness, and ballistic skill improved by 1. He's a fancy Cryptech that can modify you guys. Then there's Orca the Diviner. Same sort of stat line, except he also has Orca the Empowered stat line. Which is triggered from one of his abilities, the Stars Are Right ability. And basically just becomes a buffed up 2 up, 2 up, strength, toughness 7, 7 wounds, 4 attacks. Beast. Other than that, his only difference between him and Orkan is 5-inch movement, 4+ save. He's okay. He's actually not a bad choice for HQ for a named character. He's got a Staff of Tomorrow, which is okay. It's strength user, strength 4, AP -3, D3 damage, and can reroll failed hit rolls. Sure. He's got his Living Metal. He's got his 5-up invul save that he gives out to friendly units within 6 inches. He's got his Technomancer for the +1 to reanimation. He's got his Stars as Right, and he rolls how the Stars are Right works is you roll a d6 at the start of each of your turns. If the result is less than the current battle round, you use his empowered one. So the longer the game goes, more chances you have of him being buffed up, so save him till the right moment, until he's right in the thick of it, and go to town. Anarcho the Traveler. He's a pretty cool Lord choice. He's pretty good HQ. He's a Necron Overlord, so standard stat line is with a 3-up save. He's got his Tachyon Arrow, which is a 120-inch range, Assault 1, Strength 10, AP -5, D6 damage. That range seems a little extreme. Wow, okay. This weapon can only be used once per battle. Pray it hits. Wow, okay. And then he's got his War Scythe, which is just a strength +2, so 6, 7, 8. Since he's got a higher strength than a normal Lord, he's hitting at strength 8 with a War Scythe. AP -4, 2 damage. He's got his 4-up invul save, he's got My Will Be Done, he's got Living Metal, he's got a ability that adds 1 to the attacks characteristics of friendly Necron infantry within 3. I see that going very well with Lich Guard or Flayed Ones. Or at the very least helping to keep your warrior blobs alive as they get tied down. And then he's got Mind in the Machine, where he can, in the shooting phase, choose an enemy vehicle within 12 inches and roll a d6 on a 4+. You choose one of that vehicle's weapons, and you may shoot with that weapon at another enemy unit. The weapon fires using the vehicle's ballistic skill. Well, if you can get close enough, take control of that guy, of that Imperial Guard player's Volcano Cannon on his Baneblade. I'm sure he'll be happy about that. Having seen some ridiculous mind control shit go down in this game in this edition. Quite hilarious. Tracing the Infinite. Take this guy if you want absolute fun. Other than that, he's not really that good. Like, he's a standard Necron Lord. So, 5-inch, 2-up, 2-up, 5, 5, 6 wounds, 3 attacks, leadership 10, 3+ save. His Empathic Obliterator is a strength +2 melee weapon with AP -1, D3 damage, and if a character is slain by an attack from this weapon, each enemy unit within 6 inches of the slain character suffers D3 more wounds. Meh. With his low number of attacks, you shouldn't be taking on enemy characters. His Phase Shifter gives him 4-up invul save. He's got the My Will Be Done, which is fine. So he's got the Living Metal. So he's just a standard fancy, supposedly character-killing warlord from that weapon, but not so much. His Surrogate Host, however, does make him really hard to remove. So, and each time he's slain, you roll a d6 on a 2+, you choose another friendly Necron infantry character, other than named ones, and you remove that model as if it were slain and place Trazen in its place with D3 wounds remaining. If no such characters remain, or you rolled a 1, he's dead. Yeah, those are the named characters. They're okay. Trazen is a bit subpar. Anarcho the Traveler is okay. Orkan the Diviner is pretty cool if you can get his empowered ability off, but still, Luminous Cesaris is definitely the way to go if you want to mod the hell out of your melee troops. Again, the best thing I can think to use that on is Lich Guard or It says only Necron Warriors for his mechanical augmentation. Yeah, so Luminous Azaris, not really a good option, since the things, his special secondary ability is only good on things that don't need it. So, meh. Vargard Oberyn is a good bodyguard, but he only works with Nemesis Zendrick, and Nemesis Zendrick is not great. If you want to go a named character, Emotek the Stormlord is fantastic for buffing a Sutek Dynasty standard sort of Necron sort of gunline list with lots of warriors, lots of immortals, since he can do his My Will Be Done on up to 2 units to get them hitting on 2+. So, yeah. Other than that, you are probably better off sticking with the generic options, which are the Catacomb Command Barge, the Overlord, the Lord, the Cryptic, and the Destroyer Lord. The Catacomb Command Barge, in my opinion, is probably the second best HQ option you have. The first one being the Cryptek, simply because the Cryptek is even more supportive. So the Catacomb Command Barge combines all the funness of a standard Necron Lord, who is, by himself, quite tanky. A standard Necron Overlord has that standard stat line we talked about, with the 2-up, 5-inch movement, Strength, Toughness 5, 5 wounds, 3 attacks, Leadership 10, 3 attacks. He doesn't really have enough attacks, but he does hit very, very hard, provided you give him something that is not a Void Blade and not a Staff of Light. Staff of Light is got 2 profiles. Got a shooting profile, 12-inch assault 3, strength 5, AP -2. Okay. Heavy bolter with extra AP at 12-inch. His melee profile with the Staff of Light is just strength user, AP -2, 1 damage. Not really great with only 3 attacks. Hyperphase Sword. It would be better if you could take a shield to get a bigger invul save, but since the new shields in Necron book 8th edition only give 4-up invul saves instead of 3-ups, it doesn't matter since he's already got one from his phase shifter. And the Hyperphase Sword brings him to strength 6 with its bonuses and AP -3. It's a Space Wolf Frost sword. The Void Blade is better. The Void Blade is better if you're expecting to have to actually fight marine equivalents. It's strength user, so strength 5, AP -3, and each time the bearer fights, it makes 1 additional attack with this weapon. That's good. That's better. The extra strength over getting 1 more attack on an Overlord, I think getting the extra attack is more important. Otherwise, he just doesn't have enough dice to chuck at it to really hurt enemy characters or even enemy squads. You can't really tear chunks out of them with his 3 attacks. Even though he's hitting on 2s, winning on 3s against marine equivalents. It's just not enough a lot of the time. The Void Scythe is good. It lets him hit at strength 10 because it's ×2. It's AP -4, so they're only getting an invul save against it unless they've got 2-up armor. And it's 3 damage. But it has the -1 to hit roll, the same that Thunder Hammers have. I keep saying Power Hammers. The same that Thunder Hammers have. So, it's a very good weapon, but it's also very expensive. It's about, I think it's something like 21 points, whereas the War Scythe, which is just a little bit weaker, but without the downside, is only 11 or so points. I did the math with T. I've forgotten it now. I recommend the War Scythe. The War Scythe is strength +2, letting him hit at strength 7, AP -4 and 2 damage, and then take the War Scythe and then take a relic called the Void Scythe. No, not the Void Scythe. The Void Reaper. The Void Scythe. Take the generic relic called the Void Reaper if you don't have any specific relic in mind. And that's basically just a free upgrade on the War Scythe that turns it into a Void Scythe, but without any of the downsides. And always winning on a 2+ unless you're fighting a vehicle. So, hey, the high damage and high AP and the high strength make up for the lack of attacks there. So when he hits, he's going to hit hard. Overlords, in my opinion, not really great for taking on characters with good invul saves. Characters with bad invul saves, you'll just eat them for breakfast, as well as big creatures with low invul saves or that rely on toughness and armor and wounds to be able to survive. Tear them to shreds. Carnifexes, Tyranid monsters, orc vehicles, orc mechs, Tau mechs, stuff like that. Overlords, just eat them alive. Same with Primaris Marines, Centurions, all that kind of thing. So I say the War Scythe is the best option. You can take the Resurrection Orb, which is 35 points. If the model has a Resurrection Orb once per battle, immediately after you made your reanimation protocols, at the beginning of the turn, you can make reanimation protocols for models from friendly Dynasty infantry units within 3 inches of this model. So you can do it again. Yeah, 35 points for an extra resurrection, for that extra roll. That can be worth it if you are looking to turn the tide from near defeat. 35 points with a War Scythe brings them up to something like 120 points, which is not a bad price for a HQ. It's a little high comparatively, but it's still very good considering the amount of damage he can potentially put out even with his minimum 3 attacks. With the Void Scythe, he goes to 140. That's where I start to think Overlord gets a little overcosted. He's got the My Will Be Done, which we've covered. And there's the Phase Shifter, so he's got a 4+ Invul save and a Living Metal. So he regenerates. Then you can stick him on a Catacomb Command Page for even more points. This nets you an increased toughness to 6. It gets you a 12-inch movement. Always good to have more movement. 8 wounds. Fantastic diddly-addly. He's still got that annoying 3 attacks. He's still got the 3-up save. He's got a Gauss, but where the Catacomb Command Barge comes in is that A, it's a character with less than 10 wounds, so he can't be sniped, and B, you get to take advantage of heavier weapons so that you can contribute much more in the shooting phase with your Overlord's ballistic skill, as well as keeping his still very good weapon skill and attacks and damage. His Gauss Cannon, so he comes with a Gauss Cannon by standard on the Catacomb Command Barge. The Gauss Cannon is 24 inches, heavy 3, strength 6, AP -3, D3 damage. Very good weapon that'll let him contribute to the fight. If he chooses to move, he'll only be hitting on 3s, which is not bad. He can replace it with a Tesla Cannon, or he can replace it with a Tesla Cannon. The Gauss Cannon or the Tesla Cannon. So you can throw the Tesla Cannon on if you want to try and contribute more shots to tear through guard and hordes and orcs and boys and nids and things with little to no armor save and lots of bodies, because it's strength 6, so it's wounding toughness 3, critters on 2-ups. It's assault 3, and each hit roll of 6+ with this weapon causes 3 hits instead of 1. If you use his Wave of Command on himself, you can get that to fire off on 5s. Gets you to contribute more Tesla to the action. The Gauss Cannon is good. It's an awkward strength spot, but it's definitely good for tearing through Marine equivalents and Terminator equivalents with its AP -3, D3 damage, and strength 6. And it can pose a threat to vehicles. While it will be wounding on 5s, unless you're shooting at a Titan, yeah. There is only one downside to putting him on the Catacomb Command Barge, on the Catacomb Command Barge, and that is, firstly, well, there's 2 things. One, he can explode, but that's a rarity. His only disadvantage is that he exchanges his Invul save for Quantum Shielding, which works a little bit differently and is a little bit less reliable. Each time this model fails a saving throw, roll a d6. If the result is less than the damage inflicted by the attack, the damage is ignored. For example, if the model suffers 4 damage and then you roll a 3 or less, the damage is ignored. Quantum Shielding cannot prevent damage caused by mortal wounds. So, the lower the damage output, the more it hurts. So, yeah. It's a bit of a gamble. It's not quite as reliable as just the straight 4 pinball save, but you get a lot of things and a lot more firepower on your Overlord. Otherwise, your Overlord literally just has to stick in the back and keep going. My will be done. My will be done. My will be done. Resurrection Orb. That's all your Overlord's going to be doing until he gets into melee. Whereas if you put him on the Catacomb Command Barge, he can do all that while shooting. The standard Necron Lord has the same profile, except he's got a weapon skill, ballistic skill of 3+, and he's only got 4 wounds. Here's the Staff of Light. By standard, you can give him a Hyperface Sword, a Void Blade, or a War Scythe. He's your budget HQ option. He's got the Living Metal, he's got the Resurrection Orb option, but he has the Lord's Will, which lets you reroll wound rolls of 1 for friendly Dynasty infantry units that are within 6 inches. So you put him and an Overlord together, and you get your big blob of 20 Necron Warriors shooting on 2-ups, rerolling wound rolls of 1. If you pair that with the right Dynasty, you can reroll hit rolls of 1 and even do all sorts, and even run forward while you're doing it. So, yeah. The final 2 HQ options is you've got the Cryptek, which is pretty much, I would assume, a staple. I think it's a staple, because what it gives for its price is not bad. Yeah. So, it's like a Lord, only with a 4+ armor save. It's only got 1 attack, the Cryptek. It's got 4 wounds and its strength and toughness 4. Other than that, it's 5-inch movement, it's 3-up, 3-up. It's armed with the Staff of Light, that's its only option. And then it can take either a Chronometron or a Canoptic Cloak, which is the new piece of war gear currently only available at the time of this recording if you buy the Forgebane box set. Or buy it through people who have bought that. Selling the models individually. He's got Living Metal. And he's got Technomancer, which adds 1 to your reanimation protocols, which is great. Lets you reanimate on 4-up. The Canoptic Cloak lets him move 10 inches, and he gains the Fly keyword. In addition, at the start of your turn, you can select 1 friendly Dynasty model that has the Living Metal ability, so vehicles or characters, and is within 3 inches of this model. That model regains D3 lost wounds rather than 1 from its Living Metal. Your everyday Tomb World Repairman at the call. Or if you want to if you don't want to heal your vehicles and you want to make your infantry even tougher, then go the Chronometron. Infantry units within 3 inches of a friendly model with this Chronometron have a 5+ invulnerable save against ranged weapons. Remember, invulnerable saves are good. Always, never hurts to have, and at a low cost. Well, affordable cost. The Destroy Lord is your last option. He's very... Okay, so imagine a standard Necron Lord, but with toughness 6, and 6 wounds, and 4 attacks. And he has a 10-inch fly. He's got all the same options: War Scythe, Void Blade, Staff of Light, Hyperface Sword, Staff of Light. He can take the Phylactery or the Resurrection Orb. The Phylactery means with his Living Metal rule, he will regain D3 lost wounds rather than 1. He has a Hardwired Hatred for rerolling hit rolls of 1. Which means he's actually not that bad. United in Hatred, you can reroll wound rolls of 1 for friendly Dynasty Destroyer and Dynasty Heavy Destroyers within 6 inches. Which is nice, but considering he's actually a bit of a melee beatstick, I'm not sure that's exactly where I would want him. I'd rather just give the job of buffing the Destroyers to Standard Overlord. Yeah. I like the Destroy Lord. Quite a bit in terms of a melee character, but again, he has the requisite number of attacks to really do well, so he's okay. His abilities don't exactly combo well with anyone that's not him or a destroyer. But for that, you take Cryptex and an Overlord to buff you guys. You've got Necron Warriors and Immortals. Necron Warriors really haven't changed. There's still the 4-up Invul save. There's a 4-up armor save, sorry. There's still the Strength Toughness 4, Marine Equivalents, 5-inch movement. They've still got reanimation protocols, and they still come with Gust Flares and only Gust Flares, which are which are still AP -1, but that's fine because there's other stuff for that. Immortals are still good. You still get 5 of them. They're still just fancy warriors with a better armor save and an option between a Gust Blaster or a Tesla Carbine. The option of whether Tesla or Gauss is better is still there. The argument is still there for both sides. They both have their very important roles. These guys, most lists, they fill out, they're where the true power behind your shooting comes from. The Necron Warriors is sort of there just to throw lots of shots downrange and give lots of bodies. Give a nice immovable mass. Immortals is where your firepower comes from. So Tesla Carbines are still the option to go to against Gek, against Gribbly Hordes, and the Gauss Blaster is still the preferred option against Marines and other armor safe things. AP -2 is not perfect, but it's still good enough. AP -2 is good enough. Lich Guard are an elite's choice. Now we go into the elites. Yeah, Lich Guard are awesome. I really like the Lich Guard. They're still movement 5, so it's movement 5, so the best way to get them somewhere is to deep strike them. Hitting on 3s. They come with a Hyperphase Sword or a War Scythe. Well, they come with a War Scythe. They can be given a Hyperphase Sword and Dispersion Shield. They're 2 attacks apiece, which is nice for a unit that's meant to be going into melee. Still not quite. You got to get your Lich Guard in either in large numbers or intact to get the most out of them for their points cost, because they are very expensive, and they do have 2 wounds apiece though. The War Scythe really only works if you have a way to get first turn charge into something really big. Other than that, the Hyperphase Sword and Dispersion Shield gives them a 4+ invul save, and is probably better simply because it capitalizes on their 2 wounds, tankiness, reanimation protocol to make them a nice bodyguard unit for your Overlord to wait into combat. They're good. They're just very expensive. That's their only real downside. They're a good unit, but expensive. They do have their Guardian protocols, which let them intercept wounds for characters on a 2+, and they take a mortal wound instead. And they've got reanimation protocols. Death Marks, your snipery assassins that can out deep strike your enemy deep strikers. They're reasonably priced. Their Synaptic Disintegrators are only 24-inch range, so sadly they do need to be close to do the thing that they want to do. They're essentially just Immortals. Otherwise, they've got reanimation protocols. Their Synaptic Disintegrators are basically rapid fire 1, 24 inches, strength 4, no AP. They can target characters even if they're not the closest enemy unit, and they inflict mortal wounds on a 6+, in addition to any other damage on wound rolls. So, hunters from hyperspace during deployment, you can put them in hyperspace and deep strike them 9 inches away from enemy units at the beginning of one of your movement, at the end of one of your movement phases. The ethereal interception is that when an enemy does it, you can do it at the same time, 9 inches away from those guys, and then you can immediately make a shooting attack at them. So there's that. Flayed ones are still creepy as F. They got terrible ballistic skill, but that doesn't matter. Otherwise, they're standard Necron warriors in terms of armor save and stats. They do have 3 attacks now, which is a-okay. They used to have a lot more attacks. They used to have 4 or 5 attacks, I'm pretty sure. So that's been toned down a bit. They require you to bury enemy in weight of dice. Thankfully, they're very, very cheap. So the flayed ones are dealing with hordes, while your Lich Guard are your anti-marine and heavy monster vehicle mashers. So yeah, flayed ones have the reanimation protocols. Their flare claws are strength user, so strength 4, AP nothing, damage 1 melee weapons that can reroll failed wound rolls. Ouch. If any flayed ones slay any models in a unit, the unit subtracts 1 from its leadership characteristic until the end, so just a little bit to make them run away just a little bit more. And of course you can deep strike them. With the Haunting Horrors rule, you can put them away and bring them out at the end of one of your movement phases, 9 inches away from enemy models. You have the Triarch Praetorians, which are in an odd place, and they're not really good, in my opinion. They've got the 10-inch movement, they got the Strength Toughness 5, they've got the 2 wounds, 2 attacks, and the 3-up save. They're all armed with a Rod of Covenant, which has a 12-inch shooting profile of Assault 1, Strength 5, AP -3. And a Strength User, AP -3 melee profile. They can replace their Rod of the Covenants with Void Blades and Particle Casters. Void Blades, as we know, give an extra attack and have AP -3 while being a Strength User, so Strength 5. Yeah, that's okay. Actually, that's pretty good. Then Particle Caster is a pistol. Standard loadout, the Rod of Covenant, I don't think is very good at all. Void Blade and Particle Caster is a-okay. They are only lacking the ability to deep strike. Other than that, their fast movement is pretty good. Yeah. They're okay assault troops, and they can do a bit more work than the Lich Guard since they've got more attacks, but they can't take on really big things. But they're not going to be able to mow through hordes like flayed ones are, and they're not going to have as many bodies as flayed ones. Triarch Stalkers is your next elite choice, which is really good. The other issue with Triarch Praetorians and the Triarch Stalker is that they don't have the Dynasty keyword, so they can't benefit from a lot of the really cool Dynasty rules. The Triarch Stalker is a vehicle with the degrading stat line, movement 10 and weapon skill ballistic skill 3 up, which goes down to 8 inches and 4 up, and then when it's near dead, 6 inches, 5 up. Strength 7, toughness 6, 10 wounds, 3 attacks, leadership 10, 3+ save. It comes with a heat ray and massive forelimbs. The heat ray has got 2 firing modes. It's got a 8-inch heavy 2d6, basically a heavy flamer, which is strength 5, AP -1, automatically hits. Or it's got a melter profile, which is 24 inches, heavy 2, strength 8, AP -4, d6. If the target's within half range, you roll 2 dice for the damage and discard the lowest result. It can replace its heat ray with a particle shredder, which is 24 inches, heavy 6, strength 7, AP -1, d3 damage. That's a good gun, to put it mildly. And then, or it can replace it with a twin heavy Gauss cannon, which is 36 inches, heavy 2, strength 9, AP -4, d6, if you really want to start blowing up tanks. Yeah, it's good. It is good. It just fails to benefit from the Dynasty keywords, which, as something that Tim noted, it kind of really needs to be a great unit. Other than that, it's just sort of good. It's got quantum shielding. It explodes. It's living metal. It's got the targeting relay, which you can reroll hit rolls of 1 for any friendly Necrons that make a shooting attack against a unit that has already been attacked by any Triarch Stalkers in this phase. Also really good. Okay, here come the Catan. Alright, so you still got the Shard of the Deceiver. He is still amazing. He's got that Strength Toughness 7, 2 up, 8 inch. 8 wounds, 4 attacks, leadership 10, 4 up save. He's got the Star God Fists, which are strength user, AP minus 40. Just 3 damage. He's got 4 up invul save. Opponents add 1 to their morale test within 12 inches of him. He's still got the awesome, before the first turn begins, after you finish setting up, roll D3. You can remove the Catan of the Deceiver and up to D3 other friendly Necron units, and then set them up again more than 12 inches away from enemy models. If you do so, you cannot charge in your first turn. It would be awesome if you could charge. It would be so awesome. It would make a Lich Guard really viable to run a big list of them. Other than that, it's just really good for getting your guys into great positions to unload massive amounts of firepower turn 1. It's got Powers of Catan. You can use 1 power at the end of each of its movement phases. He explodes, and then he can never be a warlord. The Catan of the Nightbringer is less dick around with you and more stab you dead. He hasn't actually changed from the index that I can see here. Still explodes, can never be a warlord. Can shoot off 1 of its powers at the end of the movement phase, 4 pinball save. Scary Gaze of Death, that's AP minus 4, D3 damage. That always wounds on a 2+, unless it's targeting a vehicle. And Scythe of the Nightbringer, which, same thing, except D6 damage, and yeah. The Catan Shard of the Nightbringer is a big-ass beatstick. Alright, fast attack. This is where we start to cover those Canoptic units. So, Canoptic Wraiths. Very expensive, very good unit. They've had some increased damage in AP, I think? And they've definitely had increased damage from the index version. So, you get 3 of them in a unit, and they're all equipped with Vicious Claws, which are Strength User, AP minus 2 damage. Fantastic. They're 12-inch movement. They're 3 up, Strength 6, Toughness 5, 3 wounds, 3 attacks, Leadership 10, 4 up save. Any model may take a Particle Caster, which is a pistol, Strength 6 pistol, with 1 shot. Or they can take a Transdimensional Beamer, which is a 12-inch, heavy D3, Strength 4, AP minus 3, damage 1 gun. Each time you roll a wound roll of 6+, they suffer a mortal wound. Shit. The Whip Coils, if the bearer is slain in the fight phase, they still get to... It's not removed before it made its attacks, then you leave the model where it is, and it can still get to fight, and then you remove it. Yep, so, Wraiths. Whip Coils are good. Sadly, the Whip Coils are also the most expensive option, making them something like 62 points a pop. I think T figured it out. He's planning on building a Canoptic theme list. Yeah, something along those lines. Otherwise, I would almost recommend leaving them with... I'm really tempted to say that the Transdimensional Beamer with the D3 shots, even though it's heavy, is probably the better choice to put anything on them, if you're going to put anything on them at all. If you're going to run them bare bones, that also works as well. Otherwise, but if you're really going to be... Yeah. The Whip Coils are fantastic, but just a little bit too expensive for that buff. Which, given, is a fantastic ability to be able to fight, even if you're killed. They have their Wraith form, so they all have a 3-up invulnerable save and can move across models and terrain as if they were not there. And they can shoot and charge even if they fell back this turn. Awesome possum. So then you've got Canoptic Scarabs, the cheapest and easiest way to fill up the fast attack slots for a brigade. Ooh, I'm having trouble speaking. I have not slept in many, many moons. They're okay. They're 10-inch movement. They're 4-up weapon skill. They're strength, toughness 3. They're 3 wounds apiece, 4 attacks. That's been dialed down, I'm pretty sure, by 1. They got a 6-up save. You can have up to 9 in a swarm. They got their feet of mandibles, which are just strength user melee weapons, which regardless of the enemy toughness, you will always win on a 5-up. Fantastic diddly atlas. Neighborinos. They also have swarm and fly. Okay. So technically they fly. Tomb Blades, the bane of players' existence against Necrons in 7th edition, is now merely adequate. The Tomb Blade is cheapish, standard warrior stat line with a 14-inch movement and 2 wounds and extra toughness. They come with Gauss Blasters, however. Gauss Blasters, which are the standard armament of, or a Tesla Carbine, the standard armaments of Immortals, which are good armaments on them in themselves. They can also have a particle beamer. They have 2 Tesla. Okay, I've read that real quickly there. They come with 2 Gauss Blasters, so they've got 2 shots at 24 inches, 4 shots at rapid fire that are strength 5, AP -2. Tesla Carbines, they can have 4 shots per model if you give them, because they have 2 Tesla Carbines when you trade them up. Or you can give them a single particle beamer, which is Assault 3, 24 inches, Strength 6, AP nothing. They can take shield veins, and any model can take a nebula scope or a shadow loom. They got reanimation protocols. They got evasion beams, which opponents must subtract 1 from hit rolls to target them in the shooting phase. Neat. Shield veins give them a 3+ armor save. Yeah, have a 3+. Give them a 3+ armor save. Not so much worth it. The Shadow Loom, more worth it, since it gives them a 5+ invulnerable save. The Nebuloscope, enemy units don't receive the bonus for being in cover, which is good against some armies, not so great against others. To be honest, the first thing that springs to my mind looking at Tomb Blades this edition is give them 2 Tesla Carbines each and some Nebula Scopes and go hunt squishy units that think they're going to be safe in cover. And just mow down the hordes. Leave the destruction of the enemy's large, annoying units to your destroyers, which are cheapish, have really big guns, 10-inch movement, toughness 5, 3 wounds apiece. They're fairly tough. You can include up to 3 models in a unit. If you have at least 3, you can, each unit contains 1 destroyer. If you have up to 3 in a unit, at least 3 in a unit, you can replace one of your destroyers with a heavy destroyer. Each destroyer is armed with a Gauss cannon, which is 24 inches, heavy 3, strength 6, AP -3, D3. Not bad, bit of an awkward strength placement, but still a credible threat to vehicles and infantry. And the heavy Gauss cannon, which is your 36-inch heavy 1, strength 9, AP -4, D6 damage, straight for the destruction of enemy armor. They've got reanimation protocols, they reroll hit rolls of 1 with their hardwired hatred, and they can move and fire heavy weapons without suffering the penalty to hit rolls. They have the infantry keyword, which means they are a very, 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 very good option for My Will Be Done to make them hit on 2s with their big guns. Destroyers are amazing. Destroyers are an awesome firebase. Reasonably costed. They are much better. They're still index. They're still as noteworthy as they were as the index. Heavy destroyers, if you just want to take one heavy destroyer with its big F-off cannon, then that's a thing. It's the same stat line, it's just the big F-off cannon if you just want a separate one. Canoptic spiders give you some versatility and provide your main sort of psychic denial. Their 6-inch movements we moved into the heavy sports now, without me realizing. Heavy destroyers are a heavy option. You've got the Canoptic Spiders, 6-inch movement, 4 up, strength 6, toughness 6, 4 wounds, 4 attacks, leadership 10, 3 up save. You get 1 in a unit. You can include up to 3 in a unit. They're armed with automaton claws, which are strength user, AP minus 2, D3 damage. You can give them a Fabricator Claw Array, a Gloom Prism, or 2 Particle Beamers. The Claw Array lets you repair Dynasty vehicles within 1 inches. They get D3 wounds lost back, so more all-purpose repairal if you're running a Necron armored list. Ooh, that terrifies me. Gloom Prism is awesome. Kind of almost mandatory in an army with no Psychers and no way to deny outside of Gloom Prisms and special items. So take 1, lets you deny as if you were a Psyker. And they also have the Particle Beamer. Is a... You can take up to 2 of these. So 2 24-inch Assault 3, so 6 shot at strength 6, AP nothing, damage 1 guns. Sure, they give a little extra firepower onto it. You got the Scarab Hive. At the beginning of your turn, you can roll a d6 for each Dynasty Canoptic Scarab unit from your army that is below its starting number of models within 6 inches of a friendly Canoptic Spider unit. On a roll of a 1, those Canoptic Spider units within 6 inches being rolled for suffer a mortal wound. On a 2+, one of those Canoptic Spider units within 6 inches of the unit being rolled for unleashes reinforcements. Return a Canoptic Scarab swarm to the depleted unit. So that means you add 1 base back in unit coherency from the enemy model and more than 1 inches away from enemy models. You can't do this if there's no actual space to set up the base. So yeah, you can add on a 2-up, you can add a base back to a Scarab Swarm that's lost a base from its unit. Not bad. Monster, Fly, Canoptic, Dynasty. Monoliths. Oh man, these things were dreadful to take. The last time I fought Necrons, this was the pinnacle of their evolution. Also, Sisters of Battle actually had support. Actually, Sisters of Battle were new. These were new, actually. Jeez, I'm getting old. Okay, so the Necron Monolith. It's got a degrading stat line. 6-inch move, 3 up. Portal of Exile, 4 up, and then goes down to 5, 4, 5, 4, 5, 6. It's got a strength 8, toughness 6, 20 wounds, 3 attacks, leadership 10, 3 up armor. It's equipped with 4 Gauss Fluxes, which are 24-inch 24-inch range, heavy 3, strength 5, AP minus 2, 1 damage. And its Particle Whip is 24 inches, heavy 6, strength 8, AP minus 2, D3 damage. Okay. That's not so great, but it is also a lot of shots. A lot of shots. Particle Whip is not so great for taking out enemy armor, but probably better for tough infantry and monsters. Living Metal, Death Descending, so you can leave it up in the sky and then bring it down at the end of one of your movement phases. It's got the Portal of Exile, which when an enemy unit other than a monster or vehicle finishes a charge move within 1 inches of the monolith, you can activate the Portal of Exile, roll a d6, and compare it to the value required on the damage table above, so at full wounds 4 up. If your roll is successful, the charging unit suffers d6 mortal wounds. Good way to protect your monolith from being charged. It hovers, so you measure from the hull, even though it has a base. Funnily enough, there's some people arguing that that makes no sense since these things never had a base. That is false. T has one of the original monoliths. They all originally had tiny 60 mil clear bases, which I'm pretty sure they stopped putting in the later Necron monoliths. The kit hasn't changed over much during the course of its history. I just know that from other people who have bought newer monoliths, they don't include that anymore. But the older ones, oh boy, they have stands. Oh boy, they are stupid. Pretty sure the vast majority of them broke. Houses, still on there. Floating Fortress, it can ignore the penalty for moving and firing heavy weapons. It's got the Eternity Gate, so it can set up any number of friendly... when you set up this model, at the same time, you can also set up any number of friendly Dynasty infantry units on the tomb world, rather than setting up on the battlefield. Before the model moves in your movement phase, a single friendly Dynasty unit that was set up on the tomb world can be transported onto the battlefield by the monolith, set it up wholly within 3 inches of this model and more than 1 inch away from an enemy model. If all Dynasty Knight sites and monoliths from your army destroyed, all friendly Dynasty units still on their tomb worlds are considered slain. Sweet. Uber transports that ignore transport capacity. And of course it explodes. Vehicle, Titanic, Fly, Monolith, and Dynasty. Monoliths. Old Grey Duck ain't what it used to be, but it's still awesome. The Annihilation Barge. So, this is what your Catacomb Command Barge looks like if you don't put a Necron Lord on it. So, 12-inch, weapon skill 6, strength, ballistic skill 3 up, strength toughness 5, 8 wounds, 3 attacks, leadership 10, 4 up save. Comes with a Gauss Blaster and a Twin Tesla Destructor. The Twin Tesla Destructor is awesome. It's 24 inches, 8 shots, strength 7, no AP, 1 damage, each to hit roll of a 6+ causes 3 hits instead. It can replace its Gauss cannon with a Tesla cannon for 3 more extra Tesla shots at strength 6. So all the Tesla. It has the living metal, it explodes, and the quantum shielding. Doomsday Arc, this was not so great in the index, and very, very overcosted. It's a bit better now with some improvements to its gun. Still a degrading stat line, starting at 12-inch movement, and ballistic skill 3 up and 3 attacks, then degrading to 8-inch movement, 4 up D3, and then finally 4, 5 up, and 1 attack. Strength toughness 6, it's 14 wounds, it's a 4 up save. It's meh. Okay. It's a slightly squishy tank. It's not designed to go front lines, however, and go toe-to-toe with things. It's meant to sit back and bombard enemies with its really big guns. Its Doomsday Cannon at low power is 36 inches, heavy D6, a improvement. Strength 8, AP minus 2, D3. Its high power is now heavy D6, 72-inch range, 10-inch, strength 10, AP minus 5, D6 damage. A model can only fire the Doomsday Cannon at high power if it remains stationary in its preceding movement phase. With that kind of range, it doesn't have a need to move a lot. It also has a Gus Flare array, well, it has 2 of them, which are 24 inches, rapid fire 5, strength 4, AP minus 1. It can put out a lot of shots with those Gus Flare arrays. It's a bit of a gunboat. Which kind of describes all of the Necron arc, their Doomsday arc and transport arcs, and their transports and their flyers, just kind of, and their monoliths, sort of just a gunboaty army if you choose to build that way. Living metal, hovering, explodes, quantum shielding, vehicle, fly, whatever. You got the Transcendent Catan, which are expensive, but they've had a massive improvement in some of the biggest changes in this codex. So, their 8-inch movement, their weapon skill, ballistic skill 2+, their strength toughness 7, their 8 wounds, 4 attacks, leadership 10, 4+ save. They are equipped with cracking tendrils, which are strength user, so strength 7, AP minus 4, D6 damage. And their melee weapon, so yeah, that hits considerably hard. Anything with an invul save is going to be hurting. So anything without an invul save is going to be hurting. It's got a 4-up invul save to make up for the fact that it's only got a 4-up armor and 8 wounds. It is a character, so there's that. Yay. To help protect it as well. It's also a monster and fly. It's got its power of the Catan, which this model knows 2 powers. It can use 1 of its powers at the end of each of its movement phases. The powers are all got very different purposes. There's all sorts of things. It explodes in the same way. It can never be a warlord. And it has a new ability called Fractured Personality, which can help you represent the lots of different shards of the Catan scattered all over the galaxy. Before the battle, you can pick one of the abilities opposite to apply to this model for the duration of the battle. Alternatively, you can roll 2d6 to randomly determine 2 abilities and apply them both to this model for the duration of the battle. Duplicate results have no effect. So you can either pick one, if you've got a very specific build in mind for your Transcendent Catan and you want to do one very specific thing, or you just want to get maximum sort of versatility and power out of your Transcendent Catan, you can take a chance, roll 2d6, and see what abilities you can get, and pray you don't get one of the useless ones. And there's only really one of those. So, they're all pretty decent. The Cosmic Tyrant, I see this one being one you would choose, or at least not be dissatisfied with rolling up, since it lets you use 2 of your powers of the Catan at the end of your movement phase instead of only 1, and the powers of the Catan are not bad, considering they're Necron Psychic powers without being Necron Psychic powers. Immune to Natural Law is the second result. You add 1 to saving throws made with this model, so 3-up invul save. No arguing there. That's fantastic. Sentient Necrodermis. Anything with a 3-up invul save is fantastic, by the way. It regains D3 lost wounds at the start of each of your turns, so now you've got a regenerating one. If you can get the Immune to Natural Laws and the Sentient Necrodermis together, you can get yourself a very tanky Transcendent Catan. The Trans-Dimensional Displacement, when this model advances, it adds 12 to its movement characteristic instead of rolling a dice. It's okay. Not super great, but then again, it has nothing... It serves to help get some of your powers into range, but it also stops you from charging, so up and down sides. But just because you roll it doesn't mean you have to get it. It's probably one of the ones you would never pick, but more you got it because you rolled for it. The Entropic Touch, you can reroll failed wound rolls for this model in the fight phase. Yes, that is going to definitely hurt with a Strength 7, AP -4, D6 damage melee weapon attached. Yeah. And the Writhing Voidscape, enemy units do not receive a bonus to saving throws for being in cover whilst they are within 12 inches of this model. This codex and a lot of other codexes have a lot of ways of ignoring cover. It's also not one of the best ones. So, of the 6, 2 of them are not great, but they're also not abysmally bad. Which is a yay. Dedicated Transport, you have the Ghost Arc. The Ghost Arc is, same as the, Doomsday Arc in terms of stat line. It's got 2 Gauss Flare arrays, so yay. It's got the hovering, the quantum shielding, it explodes, it's living metal. It's a transport that can have up to 10 Dynasty infantry, which must be warriors or characters. It cannot transport Destroyer Lords, so sadly, the one thing you would want to put in it, Immortals, cannot go in it. Repair Barge, you can make reanimation protocol rolls for any slain models from units embarked on the Ghost Arc. So if they're in the Ghost Arc and they've lost stuff, you can still make reanimation rolls for them. So they can, if they get shot up, you can put them back into the Ghost Barge and they can be safe while the Ghost Barge takes the hits and they continue to regenerate each turn. Any models returned this way are added to the number of models embarked in the Ghost Arc. If any models cannot be returned because there is no more room in the Ghost Arc, they are not returned. In addition, at the end of your movement phase, you can make reanimation protocol rolls for slain models within 3 inch from Dynasty Warrior units from within 3 inches of friendly Ghost Arc. You cannot use... Hang on. Okay, so how this works is its second ability is that you roll your reanimation protocols at the beginning of your movement phase, and then any warriors within 3 inches of a friendly Dynasty Ghost Arc at the end of your movement phase get to do reanimation protocols again. But you can't do it if they have been the target of a resurrection orb or a orb of eternity this turn. So the Ghost Arc is one of those other ways of contributing. Is kind of being gunboaty, while also providing lots more reanimation and sturdiness to your robo-zombies. In your flyers, you have the Doom Scythe. It's A-OK. Its Death Ray has had a bit of an improvement. Its Death Ray is 24 inches, heavy D3, strength 10, AP minus 4, D6. It's got a 20 to 60 inch move. It's got a ballistic skill 3 up and 3 attacks, for all that matters. Yeah, strength toughness 6, 12 wounds, 3 up save. It has 2 Tesla Destructors, so it's got 8 Tesla Destructor shots at strength 7, which explode to cause more hits on hit rolls of 6. Sweeto, Tesla can never go wrong. It's got Living Metal, so it regenerates. It's got Airborne, which means it can only charge by things that also have the fly keyword. It's hard to hit, so you subtract 1 from hit rolls for attacks that target in the shooting phase. Supersonic, so it basically can pivot once on the spot and then move, and it can pivot up to 90 degrees. When it advances, it auto-advances 20. And then it explodes. Yeah, meh. The Death Ray is better, but it's a real question of the death if the Death Ray at strength 10 AP minus 4 D6. It's essentially a flying neutron laser from the Adeptus Mechanicus. The only issue is that the neutron laser has easy access to rerolls and doesn't suffer penalties for moving and firing. Whereas the Death Ray will be hitting on 4-ups. So if you roll badly on your number of shots, you might be putting your points and your strength 10 D6 damage to waste. But hey, Tesla's great. But if you just want Tesla, you're probably better off going with the cheaper and more utilitarian Night Scythe, which same stats and everything. It's equipped with 2 Tesla Destructors. It's all the same special rules, except it has Invasion Beams, which, when you set up the Night Scythe on the board, you, at the same time, you can set up any number of friendly Dynasty Infantry units on the Tomb World, and then before this model moves in your movement phase, a single friendly Dynasty unit that was set up on the Tomb World can be beamed in onto the battlefield by the Night Scythe and set up wholly within 3 inches of this model and more than 1 inches from enemy models. Use the base to measure that, not the actual model. Otherwise, you'll be setting your guys up in mid-air, which just don't work. Because they technically can't be set up there. Yep. Just in case you didn't know that. And then we've got the Lord of War slot. Real quick, the Obelisk. So these are the Obelisk and the Tesseract Vault. So they are similar to a Monolith. The Obelisk has Strength Toughness 8 and 24 wounds. And then it's equipped with 4 Tesla Spheres. And they're 24 inches, Assault 5, so 5, 10, 15. So that's 20 Strength 7 Tesla shots that explode on 6s into 3 hits each. Living Metal, you can deep strike it in, but it's got to be set up more than 12 inches away from an enemy model, not 9. at the end of your movement phases. It's got the gravity pulse. At the start of your shooting phase, roll a d6 for each enemy unit that can fly and is within distance specified on its degradation damage table. On a roll of a 6, that unit suffers d3 mortal wounds. The gravity pulse starts at 18, then goes to 12, then goes to 6, and it explodes. Tesseract Vault is even more expensive. It's toughness 7, strength 8. It's 28 wounds. It's also equipped with 4 Tesla spheres for all the lightning. Back in my day, no one had Tesla. Jesus, last time I played Necrons, Tesla didn't exist. This is making me depressed. Okay. It's got the powers of Catan. It's got a 4-up invul save, and it explodes really, really big. Since it's carrying a transcendent Catan. And, it can use a number of powers of a different... It can use a number of different powers of the Catan equal to the number on the damage table. So the Tesseract Vault can do 3 powers at the end of its movement phase, and then if it gets damaged, it goes down to 2, and then 1. So, if you want an obelisk, but you also want Catan powers, it's also very expensive. Yeah. And that concludes that for all the units. That took us a bit to get through. We'll quickly go through all of their new rules, which is what you're really here for, and how they're going to work with this army and be a pain in the ass to everyone else in the universe. So, starting with their chapter tactics, dynastic codes, you've got Sutek, Relentless Advance. This is if a unit with this code advances, it treats all ranged weapons it's equipped with as being assault weapons until the end of the turn, so Rapid Fire 1 gets treated as Assault 1, and Heavy D6 is treated as Assault D6. Treats all ranged weapons is the key word there. In addition, unless it has advanced this turn, a unit with this code does not suffer the penalty to hit rolls for moving and firing heavy weapons. Sutek is awesome for a number of different configurations. It's good for Canoptic-based lists that also have lots of heavy guns that want to continue to fire those as they scream up. Canoptic lists are somewhat keeping in mind reliance on Forge World things like the Canoptic Sentinel and scary Canoptic things that Forge World makes, which is what Team wants to build, as well as for a traditional gunline army that, since Necrons have very short-range weapons, this allows them to get very aggressive with those rapid-fire Gauss Blasters and those Tesla and get right into that good old range. You've got Novokha, Awakened by Murder. You can re-roll failed hit rolls in the fight phase for units with this code if they were charged, or performed a heroic intervention. That is great for if you like Lich-Guard and Flayed Ones. And an army of Necron Overlords. It's not so great. It's actually also very... just correcting myself there. I was just about to say it's not so great. It's actually a pretty defensive trait as well for a standard sort of Necron list. Because it means the turn you get charged by someone who's trying to tie down your very scary guns of your Immortals, your Death Marks, your big warrior blobs, trying to stop them from firing. It means you've got a chance of fighting them back, which is nice. Nikila lets you re-roll hit rolls of 1 for units with this code whenever they shoot, including firing Overwatch as long as they did not move. Static gun lines are your friends. As long as they did not move and they have not disembarked from a transport. Very important stipulation there that I almost missed. So yeah, Nikila I don't think is that great. I'm definitely favoring Novokha for that defensiveness as well as that offensive trait. That, you know, it's good no matter which sort of way you're playing Necrons. Sutek is fantastic just for Necron weaponry in general because of their short range. Nefrek, huh? Oh god, the names. Translocation beams. This units with this code are advanced. They go 6 inches, and instead of rolling, if they have My Will Be Done on them or Wave of Command, they move 7 because the +1. In addition, if it advances, it can move across models and terrain as if they were not there. If you're playing in very dense, terrain-laden boards, that could be pretty scary, since all of a sudden someone ducking behind a building to hide from you could all of a sudden just mean where you're just going to phase through that building, walk through that building, and still shoot them. So there can be no hiding from them. It also means they will move up the board very fast, which could help some of their more salty units that I mentioned have a few issues outside of being beamed onto the board directly. Solar Fury from Mefrit. Mefrit is Coolio Julio. Mefrit's probably the third best. Each time, it's probably one of the best. One of the ones I think most people will be taking between it and Sutek. I think, or Saltek. I think people will be taking one of these two most of all. So Solar Fury. Each time a model with this code shoots an enemy unit that is within half range of its weapon's maximum range, the armor penetration characteristic of that weapon attack is improved by 1. So all of a sudden, your 24-inch range assault Tesla weaponry at 12 inches is now AP -1. That's with the number of shots you're typically throwing down, you are now fully capable of shredding large amounts of marine equivalents and even killing a few Terminators. Quick drink there. So stratagems, straight into your stratagems. Okay. So, stratagems, first up, 2CP, Enhanced Reanimation Protocols. Use a stratagem before making reanimation protocol rolls for a unit in your army. You can reroll reanimation protocols of 1 for that unit. Probably best spent on a really large, if you're trying to hold on in a game and you're on the verge of losing and you need one of your big blobs of Necron warriors back that has been pounded into the ground, spend that to try and get the most out of your reanimation protocols, to get the most of you guys back. Otherwise, spend that 2CP on very important squads that you really need to get back. Probably better when combined with a crypt deck, so you're reanimating on a 4 up, you're rolling 1s. There's the standard dynastic heirlooms, which is the 1CP for an extra relic, 3CP for 2 extra relics. The 2CP for Wrath of the Catan. Use the stratagem after a Catan shard from your army has resolved the power of the Catan. Roll a d6 to randomly select a power of the Catan from page 113. The Catan shard immediately uses the power roll, even if it has already used that power this phase. Because I can't remember all of the powers off the top of my head, I cannot actually tell you whether or not I think that is useful or not. My instinct says no. For 2CP, probably not. But then again, I'll reconsider that once I remember what the Catan powers all do. Because they've been changed and there's some new ones. Enhanced Invasion Beams for 1CP. Use this stratagem before you set up a unit from your Tomb World using the Invasion Beams ability of a Night Scythe from your army or a Gate of Eternity from a Monolith. You can set up to 2 units from a Tomb World instead. So if you're planning to run a really sort of rapid strike list that focuses on Invasion Beams, 1CP to get more than 1 squad out in a really particular place that you need to have your guys there to do your tactic, to break the enemy line or kill whatever needs to be killed. 1CP, worth it. Emergency Evasion Beams is 1CP for also another thing for Night Scythes and Monoliths, which lets you immediately set up a friendly unit that is still on the Tomb World, wholly within 3 inches of the Night Scythe or Monolith, and 1 inch away. So, in case since you lose any that are still on the Tomb World when all of your Night Scythe and Monoliths are dead, it's a 1CP way to say, oh god, I still have one of my units in there that's very important that can help me win. Oh crap, let me just spend 1CP to grab my Immortals and chuck them onto the field. That way I'm not, losing whatever points I've spent elsewhere and put into reserves. 1 CP for the Solar Pulse. Use this stratagem after a Necrons unit from your army has declared its target in the shooting phase, but before any hit rolls are made. Pick one of the enemy units that your unit is targeting. The enemy does not receive the benefit of cover from your units against your unit's weapons this phase. 1 CP to ignore cover, basically. Meh, circumstantial at best. Not useful, not terrible, just meh. 1 CP, amalgamated targeting data. Use the stratagem in your shooting phase if a Dynasty Doom Scythe from your army is within 6 inches of 2 other friendly Dynasty Doom Scythes. The Doom Scythes cannot fire their death rays this phase. Instead, select a point on the battlefield within 24 inches of all 3 vehicles that is visible to all of them. Roll a d6 for each enemy unit within 3 inches of that point. Add 1 to the result if the unit being rolled for has 5 or more models. Subtract 1 from unit being rolled for is a character. On a 4-up, that unit suffers 3d3 mortal wounds. So, let me just get this right. You pick a point, you roll a d6. So against hordes, you're going off on a 3+ and doing 3d3 mortal wounds to them. Not bad. Against anything less, you're on a 4-up, you're doing 3d3 mortal wounds. 50-50 chance. It's okay. It's still a good number of mortal wounds. And against characters on a 5-up. Considering, I'm almost tempted to say, I don't know the mathematics behind it, whether or not this would actually be correct, but I feel like using this would probably be a better use of the death rays, since the death rays are already hitting on 4-ups, and in this case you're going to be doing mortal wounds, but I also feel like it's a waste of the death rays' massive vehicle killing potential. I feel like you're going to use the amalgamated targeting tartar, with your Doom Scythes if you've got enemy hordes that you just want to start wiping away, or enemy mech, marine equivalents, or Terminator blobs that have just deep struck in, units of 5 or more really annoying things that you want to get rid of, Wolfen and the like. Problem is it requires you to have 3 Doom Scythes, which is not great. They are woefully expensive. 1 CP, use this... well, for 3 of them it is. For 1, I consider... yeah. For 3 Doom Scythes, that's a lot of points you're pouring into your Doom Scythes right there for... yeah. It's questionable on the cost ratio. I don't know the exact points cost off the top of my head. I did all the math a week ago when this actually came out and I got my hands on it. Yeah. So, maybe. Resurrection Protocols, 1 CP, use this when a Necron character from your army, excluding Trays in the Infinite or a Catan shard, is slain. At the end of that phase, roll a d6 on a 4-up, set the character up again as close as possible to his previous position and more than 1 inches away from an enemy model, with 1 wound remaining. This stratagem cannot be used to resurrect the same model more than once per battle. Sweet, they killed your Warlord, and he's back. 50-50 chance of getting him back. Everyone, all Necron characters except for Trazen and Catan are basically just Gilliman at this point. Good to know. 1 CP, damage control override at the start of any of your turns. Pack a Necron vehicle until the end of the turn. You use the top row of its damage stat, of its degradation table. 2 CP for dispersion field amplification. If you've got to use it in the shooting phase, when an enemy unit targets a unit of Lich Guard from your army with dispersion shields. This is another main advantage of giving your Lich Guard dispersion shields over the War Scythe. For 2 CP, you give them a 3-up invulnerable save instead of their 4-up. In addition, until the end of the phase, each time you roll an unmodified 6 for this unit's invulnerable save, the unit that made the attack suffers a mortal wound. So, get a 3-up invul save to have storm shields, and then have the equivalent of AdMech repulsor field to punish anyone who foolishly pours a lot of firepower at your big expensive bodyguards. Repair subroutines, 2 CP. Use this stratagem at the start of your turn before making a reanimation protocols roll. Select a canoptic unit from your army that is on the battlefield. That unit gains the reanimation protocols ability until the end of your turn. Really important if you're running a canoptic list, since a lot of them don't have reanimation protocols. In fact, I don't think any of them have reanimation protocols. Wraiths might, but I don't think they do. Yeah. It's a good way to, since wraiths and spiders are expensive, it's a good way to try and get some reimbursement, get some of those back. Scarab swarms, I wouldn't bother at 2 CP for scarab swarms. Quantum deflection, 1 CP. Use this stratagem when an enemy unit targets a vehicle in your army that has the quantum shielding ability. But before any hit rolls are made until the end of your phase, subtract 1 from hit rolls made for your vehicle. Hang on. Subtract 1 from rolls made for your vehicle's quantum shielding ability to see if damage is ignored. So, slightly better chance to ignore it. Looking at the mathematics on that, I'm actually not sure how useful that is. I don't know. It seems useful off the bat. Yeah. Okay. So, self-destruction, make one of your Canoptic Scarab, 1 CP to make a Canoptic Scarab Swarm from your army piles in. Use it after one of your Canoptic Scarab Swarms piles in, but before any close combat attacks are made. Select a Scarab Swarm model in that unit, and then pick an enemy unit within 1 inch of it. Your Canoptic Scarab Swarm model is destroyed, remove it from the battlefield and roll a d6 on 2+. The enemy unit that you picked suffers d3 mortal wounds. That's really cool. I like that just because it's fun and fluffy. That's really funny. Okay. Extermination protocols. Use this stratagem in your shooting phase before shooting with a destroyer lord. Before shooting with a destroyer lord, a unit of destroyers or a unit of heavy destroyers from your army. Reroll failed hit rolls and wound rolls for that unit until the end of the phase. Probably wasted on, actually very much wasted on Destroyer Lord in the shooting phase. So confine that to the use on your destroyers and heavy destroyers. Heavy destroyers, in particular. For all the tank shredding needs. For 1 CP, that's pretty good. Makes the most out of your big expensive guns. 1 CP, Disruption Fields. Use this stratagem before a Necron infantry unit from your army fights in the fight phase. Increase the strength characteristic of all your models in that unit by 1. So, strength 5. That actually pairs really well with Navok, making their defensive sort of, if they charged, reroll failed hits. It makes them a bit better. It makes them a bit more defensive. As for on the offense, that's pretty scary on War Scythes and Lich Guard, Praetorians. Also pretty good on Flayed Ones. Oh boy, the Flayed Ones. The Pharaon's Will, 1 CP. Use a stratagem after an Overlord from your army has used their My Will Be Done or Wave of Command. Immediately use that ability for a second time. Sweet. I wonder FAQ-wise whether or not if you use that on, because Overlord is a keyword, if you can use that on Imhotep the Stormlord so that he gets to do it 4 times. I'm hoping the fact will address that because I'm not actually sure. I think that's the way it works. Based on my understanding of the way his rules are written, which is awesome. Otherwise, it's just awesome in general. 1 CP, Entropic Strike. Use this stratagem in the fight phase before a Necron's character from your army fights. Invulnerable saves cannot be taken against the first close combat attack made by this character. Oh boy. Now that makes remember how I mentioned before that Necron Overlords, if you remember that far back to the beginning of this recording, I said Necron Overlords will struggle with their number of attacks to deal with things with good invul saves. Typically 3-up, 4-ups. Well, That is how you get around that. It costs you command points. Adaptive subroutines. Use this stratagem after a canoptic unit from your army has advanced. It can still shoot and or charge this turn. Very important for combos really well with the dynasty, the Nefric dynasty that lets you auto advance 6 and advance your walls. Goes very well with Sutek as well. Oh boy. And it will let your it'll let things like your spiders take advantage of you let your spiders close the distance a bit better, and also it's particularly my first thoughts is to wraiths. It'll help use their whatever that gun is, the transdimensional, no, not the whatever gun they have, the non-particle beamer one, the non-pistol one. God, I've already forgotten its name. 1 CP for Dimensional Corridor. Use this stratagem at the start of your movement phase. Select a Dynasty Infantry unit from your army that is more than 1 inch away from an enemy model. Move from the battlefield. Set it up again wholly within 3 inches of a Dynasty Monolith. That unit counts as having disembarked from the Monolith this turn and can move normally. Sweet. 2 CP, Methodical Destruction. Now we are... Oh, hang on. Okay. Methodical Destruction is for the Dynasty only ones. Before I go into that, I'll finish off the ones that are just generic Necron ones only. There's Judgment of the Triarch, which uses stratagem before a unit of Triarch Praetorians from your army shoots in the shooting phase or in the fight phase. Add 1 to hit rolls made for that unit until the end of the fight phase. Meh. Pistols hitting on 2s. Maybe. They don't have Triacs just don't have great shooting. 1 CP for Gravitic Singularity. Use a stratagem at the start of your shooting phase. Select an obelisk from your army when resolving its Gravitic Pulse. Enemy units within range that can fly suffer D3 mortal wounds on a roll of a 4+ instead of a 6. So make that seemingly meh ability really punish things that can fly. Make it a bit more reliable. 1 CP, Cosmic Powers. Use a stratagem at the start of your movement phase. Select a Catan shard in your army. That model can replace one of its powers of Catan with a different power of the Catan of your choice. So, if you select a Catan power, but you really need another one right now, swap it out for CP. Alright, so the ones that are exclusive to the dynasties for Sutek, there's Methodical Destruction, 2 CP. Use a stratagem after a Sutek unit from your army has inflicted an unsaved wound on an enemy unit. Add 1 to all hit rolls for friendly Sutek units that target the same enemy this phase. Sweet Jesus, the Necrons are accurate. Oh, my Emperor. Oh, Emperor, protect me. No wonder these guys don't lose in their own fluff. They can't miss. They've got so many ways of never missing. Jeez. Unfeeling, unthinking Terminator robots. 2 CP, Reclaim the Lost Empire for Nikila. Use this stratagem at the end of your turn. Select a Nikila unit from your army. If the unit is wholly within 3 inches of an objective marker, or if it did not move for any reason during this turn, then until the start of your next turn, you can add 1 to its saving throws made for that unit and increase the attacks characteristic of models in that unit by 1. Sit on objective, hunker down for 2 CP. Translocation Crypt. This is 1 CP. This is for Nefric. Use this stratagem during deployment. You can set up a Nefric infantry or swarm unit from your army in its translocation crypt instead of placing it on the battlefield. At the end of your movement phases, you can translocate it into battle, set it up on the battlefield 9 inches away from an enemy model. Okay, it's a sort of... it doesn't say you can only use it once per battle, and it doesn't increase in cost. It's closer to just the Demons one, which just lets you keep using it. Lets you put a whole bunch of infantry and swarm into for 1 CP into reserves that you can deep strike in. Sweet. 3 CP for Blood Rights for Novok. Lets a Novok unit in your army immediately fight for a second time at the end of the fight phase. 1 CP, Talent for Annihilation, Mephrit. Use a stratagem before a Mephrit unit from your army attacks in the shooting phase. Each time you make an unmodified roll of a 6, you can make 1 additional hit roll for that unit with the same weapon against the same target. These additional hit rolls count themselves, generate further hit rolls. Funnily enough, I'm pretty sure you can modify that so you can get it to go on 5-ups, which means, yeah. It's funny, that is essentially Daka Daka Daka, but for Necrons. Okay, Powers of the Catan. Let's make this brief. Antimatter Meteor. Roll a d6. On a 2-up, closest visible enemy unit within 24 inches of the Catan suffers d3 mortal wounds. On a 6, d6 mortal wounds. If the Catan is in a Tesseract Vault, he does d6 mortal wounds on a 5-up. Times Arrow. Pick an enemy unit within 18 inches of the Catan and roll a d6, adding 1 to the result if the Catan is in a Tesseract Vault. If the result exceeds the highest wounds characteristic in the unit, 1 model from that unit, chosen by the controlling player, is slain. An unmodified roll of a 1 will always fail. Sky of Falling Stars. Times Arrow, meh. Or, wait. If that works the way I think it works, then actually that's not bad. Sky of Falling Stars. Pick up to 3 different enemy units that are within 18 inches of the Catan Shard. Roll a d6 for each one, subtracting 1 if they're in a Tesseract Vault. If the result is less than the number of models in that unit, the unit suffers d3 mortal wounds. An unmodified roll of a 6 will always fail, so on that one you need to roll lower. Okay. So there's one if you... Okay. There's a power that deals mortal wounds for no matter what the target unit is. If you're fighting hordes, there's that one. If you're fighting MSU, there's the other one. Cosmic Fire. Roll a d6 for each enemy unit within 9 inches of the Catan. Add 1 if the Catan is in a Tesseract Vault on a 4-up, so 3-up in a Vault. The unit being rolled for suffers d3 mortal wounds. Probably better in a Vault. Seismic Assault. Pick an visible enemy unit within 24 inches of the Shard and roll a d6 for each model in that unit. Add 1 to the roll of the Catan Shard using the powers in a Vault. For each roll of a 6-up or 5-up if they're in a Vault, the unit suffers a mortal wound. Yeah, so there's no cap on that, so throw that out against really big Conscript and Termagant blobs. Transdimensional Thunderbolt. This is the last one. Pick an enemy unit that is within 24 inches of the Catan Shard and roll a d6. You can only pick a character if it has 10 or more wounds and or is the closest enemy model to the Catan Shard. Add 1 to the result if the Catan Shard is in a Tesseract Vault. On a 4+, the chosen unit suffers d3 mortal wounds. Then roll a d6 for every other enemy unit that is within 3 inches of the chosen enemy unit. On a 4+, that unit being rolled for suffers a mortal wound. Spread out the mortal wounds. Yay. Sweet. Okay. Artifacts time. So, these are your Necron relics. They cannot be given to Catan Shards or named characters. Yep. So, there's the Orb of Eternity. They have a lot of these relics. This might take a bit. They have the Orb of Eternity, which is a Resurrection Orb. It replaces a Bearer's Resurrection Orb. Once per battle, immediately after you have made a Reanimation Protocol roll, you can make a Reanimation Protocol roll for friendly models with Dynasty Infantry within 3 inches of the bearer. When making these rolls, add 1 to the result of each roll. Combine that with a Cryptek and you're reanimating on a 3-up. Sweet. Spend some CP and it's 3-ups re-rolling 1s. Void Reaper, this is kind of like, for me, I think if you're going to take a Warlord, an Overlord, and give him a Scythe and expect him to be useful, give him this Void Reaper. It's the best, it's basically a void scythe that you can get at the cost of a war scythe without the downfalls of a void scythe. It replaces a war scythe or a void scythe. It's AP -4, 3 damage. This weapon always wins on a 2+ unless targeting a vehicle, in which case it has a strength of 7. Go after monsters and characters with this thing. Well, go after monsters and high wound targets. The Nightmare Shroud, the bearer's save characteristic is improved by 1. In addition, enemy units subtract 1 from their leadership characteristic while they're within 6 inches of the bearer. Sweet. The Lightning Field, the bearer of the Lightning Field has a 4-up invulnerable save. In addition, roll a d6 for each enemy unit that is within 1 inch of the bearer at the start of the fight phase. On a 4+, that unit suffers a mortal wound. That's cool. I would probably give that to a Cryptek. I would give that to a Cryptek or a Necron Destroyer Lord. Make their invulnerable save a little better. Make their invulnerable save a little bit better. Yeah. Gauntlet of the Conflagrator. Okay. Jeez, these names doing me in. That's not even one of the bad ones. It's an 8-inch range pistol 1. It can be fired once per battle. The weapon automatically hits a target, and you roll a d6 for each model in the target unit that is within 8 inches of the firer. So you need to be right up when you're using this. Probably best to use it in melee. That unit suffers a mortal wound for a roll of 6. I think that right there is trash. Never take that. Okay, the Veil of Darkness is from the chapter approved, 2017. Jeez, I forgot what year it was for a moment there. Once per battle, at the end of any of your movement phases, the bearer can use the Veil of Darkness. When they do, him and a friendly Dynasty infantry unit within 3 inches, you can pick them up and set them up anywhere else on the board 9 inches away from an enemy, and the second unit must be set up wholly within 6 inches of the bearer. The Nano Scarab Casket, model with a phylactery only, which is very limited, so only a few things can actually take this, I'm pretty sure. The Nano Scarab Casket replaces the bearer's phylactery. The bearer of the Nano Scarab Casket regains D3 lost wounds at the beginning of your turn rather than 1 from their living metal. In addition, the bearer also regains D3 lost wounds at the beginning of your opponent's turn. So all the wound regains. The first time the bearer is slain, roll a d6. On a 4-up, the bearer. Set up the bearer again at the end of the phase as close as possible to their previous position. 1 inches away from an enemy model with d6 wounds remaining. The only thing that I'm pretty sure can actually take a phylactery right off the top of my head that I saw reading through this was a Destroyer Lord. Well, Destroyer Lords are a bit scary if you give them that. They ain't going away in a hurry. Then we have the Semi-Paternal Weave. Jeez. Infantry model only. Increase the toughness and wounds characteristic of the bearer by 1. Sweet. I mean, it's not the best one there, but it's not bad, I guess. But it's definitely not the best. The Abyssal Staff. Sortek. I keep putting the U before the A. Sortek model with Staff of Light. Ugh. Staff of Light. The Abyssal Staff replaces the Staff of Light. It's got the following profile, which is shooting is 12-inch, assault 1, --. And then melee, it's just a -2 user weapon. This weapon automatically hits its target. Roll 3d6 if a unit is hit by this weapon in the shooting phase. If the result is equal or greater than the target unit's highest leadership characteristic, the unit suffers D3 mortal wounds. I have no thoughts, views, or opinions on this weapon. And neither should you. You should not waste your time on it. Transplinter Cloak. Nikila only. Nikila model only. Once per battle, you can reroll a single hit roll, wound roll, or damage roll made for the bearer of the Time Splinter Cloak. In addition, roll a dice each time the bearer loses a wound. On a 5-up, the model does not lose that wound. 5-up, feel no pain. And A once per battle reroll. 5-up, feel no pain for free. Sweet. Voltaic Staff. Oh man. I would put that on a Catacomb Command Barge. Oh yes. Oh yes I would. Voltaic Staff. Mephrit. Mephrit only. Mephrit Staff of Light only. This one is a Staff of Light. The melee profile is the same. User AP -2. Its shooting profile is Assault 3, Strength 6, AP -3, 2 damage. Each time you make a wound roll of 6+ for this weapon in the shooting phase, the target suffers a mortal wound in addition to any other damage. It's still a shitty Staff of Light. It's a very budget option, but it does make your budget Staff of Light, well, it makes its shooting better, at least. The Blood Scythe, for Novok. Novok. Oh, God. The H's. Model with a War Scythe or Void Scythe only. This is a Strength +2, AP -4, 2 damage. Each time the bearer fights, it can make D3 additional attacks with this weapon. Well, certainly addresses that problem Necron Overlords have with attacks, doesn't it? I'm thinking back on the staffs just real quickly. You still shouldn't waste your time with the Sortek staff, the Abyssal staff, but the Voltaic staff is decent on a crypt deck to give them just a little bit more shooting support of the squads they're going to already be supporting when things reach rapid fire range. So, yeah. The staffs aren't bad on them. The Solar Staff from Nefric. Jesus, why are too many staffs. Then again, all their other ones are really, really cool. So, most of your fancy weapons are Dynasty only. Everything else is right there when you need it. Except for the Time Splinter Cloak. But we can let that slide. So the Solar Staff is an Assault 6 Solar Staff. It's Strength 5, it's AP -3. Its melee is always the same, Strength user, AP -2. Each time an enemy infantry unit is hit by this weapon, in the shooting phase, roll a d6. On a 4+ enemy unit is blinded. Until the end of the turn, it cannot fire Overwatch, and your opponent must subtract 1 from any hit rolls made for that unit. Okay, this one's not bad since it's 6 shots, probably hitting on 2-up, Strength 5, AP -3, yeah. And it's a... Yeah, it's not bad. It's not a bad shooting attack, and the 50-50 chance to kind of stop an Overwatch, attack, so that your melee of big flayed ones or Lich Guard or Praetorian can get in unmolested. That's not bad. Not great, but it's not bad. Alright, Warlord traits. Okay, these are just the general Warlord traits. There's Enduring Will, reduce, which is the same as chapter approved, and reduce any damage inflicted on your Warlord by 1 to a minimum of 1. Eternal Madness, reroll failed wound rolls for your Warlord in the fight phase if he was charged, or performed a heroic intervention. That's not a bad one. But then again, that's not bad to get the 2s hitting on 2s, rerolling 1s. Mortal Pride, friendly Dynasty units automatically pass morale tests while they are within 6 inches of your Warlord. In addition, your Warlord can attempt to deny 1 psychic power in each psychic phase in the same manner as a Psyker. That's cool. That is very, very cool. It gives you more of that psychic denial. It means your morale is leadership 10 across the board. So morale is only really an issue if you are getting hammered. Absolutely hammered. In which case this can help counter that. If you're expecting to go up against a list that you see that they've got the firepower to really just drain your army really, really quickly, and you want to keep your blobs from running, if you want to keep your warriors from running, then yeah, that's not bad. Thrall of the Silent, it's basically 2 Warlord traits in 1. Thrall of the Silent King, increase the range of all abilities on a Warlord's datasheet by 3. If the Catacomb Command Barge has the Warlord trait, don't extend, it doesn't apply to the Explodes ability. If a Cryptic has this trait, it only increases the range of the Technomancer ability, not of the Cloak or the blah. And it does not affect the distance the same Cloak allows the model move. That's decent. That's decent, increasing the range of those abilities so that they can hang a little bit further back and sort of, as your gun line spreads out, you can reach over and tell your guys, yell louder so that they hear you to blow away the enemy. It's okay. Increased range is never bad on those kinds of abilities. Implacable Conqueror. Reroll failed charge rolls for friendly dynasty units while they're within 6 inches of your warlord. That was not bad if you got an assaulty list, primarily of Canoptic units, Lich-Guard, and Flayed ones. Yeah. Honorable Combatant. If your warlord targets the same enemy character with all of their close combat attacks, add D3 to your warlord's attacks characteristics until the end of the phase. Okay. So Honorable Combatants lets you try and stack to get more attacks on your Overlord, which is always a good thing. Honorable Combatant only really works against characters. If you're in a duel with some characters, with an Overlord, you do want to be stacking the attacks in your favor, otherwise you're going to struggle to get through their invul save. But you only need a few attacks if you've got like a War Scythe or a Void Scythe to go through their invul save before they're dead. Like, you only need 2 or 3 attacks to actually go through. That is the issue. Like, that is the issue. You need 2 or 3 attacks to go through. So, and, with 4 up invul saves, and you need to get a bit more. You need more than a base 3 attacks. Otherwise, you might just maim them a little bit. Immortal Pride is good-ish. Silent King is okay. Implacable Conqueror is okay if you've got a certain list in mind. Eternal Madness is meh. Enduring Will is okay. I'd probably stick that on a Catacomb Command Barge. All in all, I can't really say that any of them are super trash, considering the units that are going to be having them. I mean, none of them are super trash, but none of them stand out of the generic ones. Okay, you got the Dynasty exclusive ones now. You've got Sartek, which probably the best one. Once per battle, you can re-roll a single failed hit roll, wound roll, or damage roll for your warlord. In addition, if your army is battle forged and your warlord is on the battlefield, roll a d6 each time you spend a command point to use a stratagem. On a 5-up, that command point is immediately refunded. Sweet. It's always nice to be refunded stratagems and refunded command points for use on future stratagems, and this army has some very nice stratagems. So, thus far that one stands out as something worth taking. So, yeah, especially for Sartek. Sartek's awesome. Just make Sartek so great. Make Necrons great again. That is the Sartek slogan. Mephrit, add 6 inches to the maximum range of all assault weapons fired by your warlord. In addition, your warlord can even shoot assault weapons at enemy characters if they are not the closest enemy model. That would be great if you could pair it up with a command barge, which I'm just flicking over to see if the Catacomb Command Barge has any assault weapons that are worth putting that on. Yes, it does. Oh my, oh my. So, it's wasted on a Staff of Light, that ability, but it's not wasted on the Tesla cannons that your Catacomb Command Barge can have. So there's that. So, yeah, that's decent-ish. Let your Tesla cannons target enemy characters as well. Nikila, your warlord always fights first in the fight phase, even if it didn't charge. If your opponent also has this, then you alternate. Meh. Standard. It's not as great as it sounds. It's useful, but not as great as it sounds. Nephric. Skin of Living Gold. Ooh, that sounds awesome. Nephric Warlord has ascended to become one with the stars themselves. Okay, that's just fluff. That's awesome. He's very shiny. Your opponent must subtract 1 from hit rolls that target Warlord. Again, also great on a Catacomb Command Barge. Also great on anything else as well that you want protected, since your characters are your main sort of force multipliers. Novok. Ah, God. Anyway, each time you roll an unmodified roll of a 6 to hit in the fight phase for a friendly unit that is within 6 inches of your Warlord, you can make 1 additional hit roll for that model with the same weapon against the same target. The additional hits cannot generate further hits. Okay, that one's not bad. Again, that whole dynasty, Novico, was all about melee. So, Praetorians won't be able to benefit from that, but if you surround him with Lich Guard and Flayed Ones, you can get yourself a nice cascade of attacks with just sheer numbers. So it's okay. That's a nice little force amplifier as well. The Dynasty exclusive ones seem to be a lot better than the generic ones in this particular case. So yeah. The Dynasties are just really cool in this codex. That's it. We've actually reached the end of this codex. Now Drukhari Dark Eldar has just come out, so I'm gonna be covering that one as soon as I get my hands on the codex. I don't have it just yet. T is getting it, and then I will take it from him. Because he is the Dark Eldar player. I am the Craftworld and Inari player. Points cost, there's been some decreases, there's been some increases. I don't have my index right here in front of me. I've left that in the studio. So I cannot outright compare some of these with you. But on Battlescribe, everything's there. Some stuff, as you expect, is A-okay. You know. In terms of points cost, I don't see a lot of what people were running before to change a lot. Yeah. So overall, Necron book is pretty solid. It has some weaknesses and it's got some good. The core units and how they interact is strong. Their base is strong. So in T's tier measuring system, they at least meet the qualifications to not be terrible. The buffs to their weapons and damage and some clarifications on their rules, you know, that's good to have that. They've gotten a bit stronger in terms of their firepower. It's good. They interact well. The dynasties themselves have some cool potential in terms of their warlord traits and what they can do for your characters, and they're also really good in what they can do and to benefit your army as a whole. Pretty much no matter which one you choose, with the exception of 1 or 2, they all do something really good that can benefit, that you can build a style of play around. The relics, the generic relics, are all awesome, and in my opinion, worth it over the Dynasty exclusive relics. The Dynasty exclusive relics, seeing now they're mostly weapons, except for the Time Splinter one, which is the only saving grace of Nikilla. Poor Nikilla seems pretty terrible. Although I can't remember what the dynasty is off the top of my head right now. What is Nikilla? Nikilla is the aggressively territorial reroll ones. Yeah, Nikilla seems to be the weakest of the dynasties. But what can you do about that? Their stratagems are a good mixture across the board. Some of them are reasonably priced. Their stratagems are okay. They're pretty decent. They're all useful. They're reasonably costed. You can build combos upon them. There's definitely stuff you can do there. Your relics are very good in the general section. Your exclusive ones, since they're mostly all Staff of Lights, are stupid and terrible, and you probably won't take them. Your general warlord traits are, again, terrible. So I think that's all I need to say on this codex. Join me in the comments below if you have any questions, or if you just want to discuss thoughts on this codex and what you think about them, and share some general ideas about this codex. It's been out for, I think, maybe a week or two at this point. I have lost track of all conception of time. I think they've been out for a week, because Dark Eldar just came out. Yeah. So, we've all had a bit of time, so let me know your thoughts on this, and whether or not this army is everything you hoped and dreamed they would be. That's it for our Codex Necrons review. Join us next time for Codex Drukari, and whatever codexes come after that, which the next 3 being that have been announced at Adepticon have been Harlequins, Deathwatch, and Imperial Knights. 2 of those armies T collects, since T collects almost every army in this game. So we will be covering... So, again, I'll try to get him to cover those. T didn't join me on this review, in case anyone was wondering, simply because I haven't had time to do a review with him, and he, to be honest, was still trying to digest it himself, since he's trying to start a Necron Canoptic-themed army. Alright, once again, I've been Jay from Jade Productions. Thank you for listening in, and happy wargaming. We'll see you next time.